An industry colleague is lying to me about a dispute we had years ago. 6 years ago, I was vice president of the board of a national advocacy body, ORGA, that had a long-standing, mostly good, relationship with another national advocacy body, ORGB. The two organizations had some commonalities, but also quite well-defined swim lanes. While I was VP for ORGA, Elsa from ORGB had approached me and asked if I could be on a voluntary advisory group they were convening. Elsa assured me it had nothing to do with my board role at ORGA, and it was a group of independent experts in the industry, with ORGB just providing a secretariat. My board eventually agreed it wasn't a conflict of interest, so I joined. 2 weeks after the first expert meeting, ORGA voted to resign their associate membership in ORGB in response to a disagreement about ORGB's new approach to something. Although I think they just disliked Sven, the CEO, and decided to try and force some sort of change within the organization. I didn't agree with the resignation, but was overruled by a majority vote. The day after the resignation was announced, I got an automated email saying Elsa had removed my access to the online platform being used by the expert group. I sent a couple of emails seeking to clarify if this was a tech issue or related to the resignation, but got no response. 3 days later, Elsa called me. She was on speaker with Sven. They confirmed I had been removed from the expert group, then proceeded to scream at me and tell me I was compromising my personal values by staying on the board of ORGA. I calmly said that professionalism and kindness were two of my values, and that I would end the call if they continued to yell. They kept yelling, so I hung up. I was shaken but chalked it up to Elsa and her team being unprofessional. 2 weeks later, the board chair of ORGB called me and asked me to join their board because they thought I had a useful skill set. I respectfully declined, partly because it was a conflict and partly because I didn't want to be managing Sven, who thinks it's okay to yell at people and question their integrity. 2 years later, I get a job with an organization that funds some of the work undertaken by ORGB. I declared our previous history to my new CEO during the interview process, who wasn't bothered. She understands it's a big industry. I also resigned from ORGA around the same time because that was a conflict. I ended up meeting Elsa for a coffee when I started my new job, as we had to work together occasionally, and she apologized for how she had treated me during that phone call, and we all moved on. I've been in my current role for years and have a cordial relationship with ORGB and Elsa. ORGB has a reputation as being difficult to work with, and they regularly have reset meetings with other organizations across the industry when they behave poorly. But I have generally gotten on well with their team since that apology. Fast forward to today. Elsa emailed the group of experts from the original panel, including me, asking us to share our experiences of the panel as a case study for successful cross-industry collaboration. I replied to Elsa and asked if she was sure I should be included because they had removed me from the group very early on. She's just replied and said, "Oh no, you were removed at the request of ORGA. Didn't you know that? It was nothing to do with us. Love your work." Allison, this just didn't happen. I was the VP at the time. I would have known about that request, and my board was just as shocked as I was about what had happened. But I can't prove anything. The board has changed over. I no longer have access to those emails from that time, and it's their word against mine. Elsa and I have a previously scheduled coffee for next week to discuss a new funding proposal, and I don't know what to do. Do I ignore the email and pretend nothing ever happened? Do I cancel the coffee on some pretext? Do I respond to correct the record? I just don't know. Update. Oh boy, do I have an update. Buckle up. I took your advice and filed the interaction as intel about Elsa. The coffee got canceled because her kids were sick. We never rescheduled it, and I never heard anything more about the case study. While I dreamed of doing a mic drop moment, I decided to be the bigger person here. And then my organization got restructured, and while my job is safe, I have been seconded to a different organization in the same industry. It's a great development opportunity, and I'm mostly enjoying it. Except, for the last few months, I've been working with Elsa on a joint application for federal funding for the program I work for. The whole way through, she and Sven were very clear that they wanted to partner with us. I would have preferred we didn't, given Elsa and Sven's past behavior, but it was already in train when I arrived, so it was a case of sucking it up. The day after the deadline for funding applications closed, I got an email from the funder asking for clarification about the two applications. At which point, my brain exploded. Sven and Elsa have put in a separate funding application for the same project. They took the information we shared in good faith, undercut the partnership, and made it sound like the partnership was submitted under duress, when we have emails and texts to the contrary. My CEO saw red and contacted their board, who had no idea that Sven had put the application in. In fact, they just congratulated Sven on his efforts to collaborate with us. When cornered, Sven apparently said he was covering his bases, and it's not personal. So now the future of our funding and my job is in jeopardy. I spend half my day screenshotting emails and writing file notes for every interaction with Sven and Elsa, and I've come to the conclusion that they miss their callings as Shakespearean-level actors. It's a crazy world,